because you're producing an 8K image does not mean that the image is going to be good. It's just going to be clear. And having a sharp image does not mean that it is a good image. So we really got to figure out where to draw that line, right? Yo, what's good, world? Back with another one. Yo, I am on a mission to demystify having to spend all that money on top tier equipment to produce top tier images. So let's get into it. As creatives, we really got to stop relying on gear to justify how good our work is. Just because you buy expensive equipment does not make you a great photographer or videographer. It's more perfecting the craft. It's becoming better at what you do. Not buying more expensive gear or having more megapixels in your camera to produce bigger images. Because you're producing an 8K image does not mean that the image is going to be good. It's just going to be clear. And having a sharp image does not mean that it is a good image. So we really got to figure out where to draw that line, right? But like I said, it really boils down to the person behind the camera and the technique. Technique is key here, right? And having excellent technique is you mastering what you have available to use, right? So you might be in a position where you feel like, oh, I only have one light, and that you're kind of neglecting the work or you're not getting everything out of it. So let's pretend we're on a budget and all we have is one light. So this is the thing with shooting with only one light is it's kind of like your best teacher, right? It's going to teach you everything you need to know about light because you're going to be so restricted, if you will, of resources that it's going to force you to learn how to use this one light to produce different results. And you have to understand how to use one light before you can even attempt to have a 2-point setup or a 3-point setup or more. If you don't understand how light is falling on your subject, then once you start introducing other lights, it's not going to benefit you in any way. 9 times out of 10, you're just going to flood your image with tons of light. You won't understand how to shape the light to produce a specific result. So you need to start with just one light. You need to understand how the light falls on your subject. You need to understand how shadows are casted on your subject. You need to understand how different modifiers manipulate the light, because once you know that, then you know what to use to produce a specific result, right? You know if you need to use a strip box or a beauty dish or a octabox or a cone reflector or a spotlight, and the list of modifiers is long, right? But which one do you use? And even though we're only using one light, you'll see how versatile that one light can be. You can get a wide range of effects just by changing the position of your light, changing the intensity, or using a different modifier. So here I'm shooting with the Paul C. Buff Alienbees B800. And this is literally the first softbox that I ever purchased. I still have it and I still use it. Not as frequent as I used to, but I do still use it. This is a 36-inch octabox with double layered diffusion. The diffusion on there is gonna soften up your light. There's a layer on the inside that sits closer to the light that pins on the inside of the softbox, and then there's the outer layer that's velcroed around the outside. So it passing through these 2 layers of diffusion is going to soften up your light. This octabox is a pretty standard modifier. We want to go for that low light, moody portrait vibe. So what you're gonna do is turn your light all the way down. Now this might vary depending on the light that you're using, but you want to use a relatively low power. You just want this thing to just cast a little bit of light. Now what you're going to do on the other end is adjust your camera settings around the available light provided from your light. What I see a lot of photographers default to is they set their light up eye level directly in front of their subject and shoot the light straight on to their model. And what that does is just produce a flat, bright image. It's boring, but I get it. If you don't understand how to use it, you don't know what to do, then that's probably what you're gonna do, and that's why we're doing this video. So to get that moody vibe, we're gonna bring our light down low. We don't wanna spill too much light on the background. And with that, bring your subject away from the backdrop. The same rules apply if you're shooting on location somewhere. Give your subject some distance from what's behind them, so there's some separation, so the light fall off is smoother, so they don't just have a bright splash behind them. We're trying to get soft light, we're trying to get softer tones, and you also want to keep your editing process in mind. Now you're going to have to adjust these photos in post just a bit. You're going to have to bring them up, but that's okay. With repetition, you'll gain the experience and you'll start to understand your workflow from shoot to edit. And you'll know how to adjust what you're trying to do from beginning to finish ahead of time. So the distance of your light from your subject is going to play a huge role here, right? So if you move your light too far away, light is gonna spill everywhere. So what you wanna do is, like I said, turn that intensity down. You probably wanna get your light 3 to 4 feet away from your subject. Basically, get your light as close as you can to the subject without it being in your shot. Keep it just outside of what you're framing, but as close as you can, intensity down. Next, we're gonna talk about the position of the light. So as I mentioned before, by default, a lot of new photographers tend to just set the light up in front and think like, hey, I got a light on you, we're good to go. Wrong. You want to raise that light just above your subject and probably at about a 45-degree angle. You want your light to cast down. This is gonna fall more natural on your subject, so it's not harsh, it doesn't look artificial, it's going to look very natural. Now, where your light is positioned is going to give you a different effect. If it's dead in front of you, you're gonna get that glam look. Everything's gonna be bright and exposed. We don't want that. For the mood, you have to have some shadow play. So in order to get shadows, you're gonna wanna move that light to the side. Now, you pretty much can think of your subject sitting, if it's a sphere, you have 360 degrees to play with. This part is a preference to what you're looking to go for. I'll typically move the light about 45 degrees to one side of the model. So with these angles, play with them a bit, because which way you have your model facing versus where you're shooting from is going to give you two different looks, right? So if you have your model facing the light and you're shooting in the same direction as the light, the key is a straight field, it's gonna be flat. Now, if you step just to the right or the left and keep your model facing that light, now you're gonna introduce some shadow because they're not being lit from that other side, whichever side you choose to go to. And alternatively, you can position your model to face away from the light, and then you can shoot from the angle of the light or from the opposing side and still introduce those shadows into your image. So experiment a little bit right here so you can learn how this works. So remember, if the light is directly in front of your model, everything is gonna be bright and lit up. And if that's the look that you want, cool, go for it. But as you move that light around your subject, it's going to give you completely different effects. So your light goes this way, you shoot from the opposing side, you're here. If you shoot here, it's just gonna be flat and bright. And shooting here, you're gonna introduce more shadows, and that's gonna give you that cinematic vibe, which in turn is gonna look more moody. So yeah, this is just one technique that you can throw in your bag if you only have one light and we're on a budget, right? And I know how it is. First starting, you may only have that one light to use, or maybe just the studio that you're shooting out of only has one light, or maybe you're borrowing a light from a friend and all they have is one light. Whatever the circumstances may be, if you only have one light, there's a lot that you can do with it. So don't think that you got to go out and buy a full light kit and spend a lot of money. If you got it, cool, go get it, but it's not necessary for you to go do that. And that's what I want to show you guys. I want to show you how to create some high level imagery, but on a budget, right? Just learn how to make what you have available work for you. And I think most importantly, what you get from utilizing only one light is forced creativity, right? Because it feels like you're limited by only having the one light. So you're gonna naturally try to figure out ways to use this one light to achieve multiple different results. And in doing so, you're gonna end up teaching yourself how to be creative with lighting and how to build and craft your light to get the desired vibe that you want. Like I said, this is just one way of lighting with a single light. So I'm putting together a series and we're gonna keep using one light in various ways and then you guys can choose what light you want to get if you don't have one yet, or what modifier to get next if you only have one modifier. Maybe you just have the standard cone reflector that comes with the light. We're gonna cover that too, because I use that straight direct harsh light as well. So hopefully this video helps you out. I wanted to break it down and show you guys specifically what I'm doing with one light, so you can see how to add a little bit more of a vibe to your work, open up the creativity a little bit. So yeah, if the video was helpful in any way, smash that like button for me. Push the sub if you're not subbed already. If you are, I appreciate you. If you're about to, I appreciate you too. And stay tuned. I'm out.